Hi everyone, it's Sam with MissionMonday.com, bringing you your weekly missions, your way to make your school, your classroom, your community a better place, 1 week at a time, one intervention at a time. Before I talk about this week's missions, I want to talk about a podcast we did recently where we had Robert and Andy. They are both high school English teachers. They did a great job on that podcast. That was a lot of fun. And I want to tie in what we talked about on that podcast with this week's mission. They wanted to talk about how can we hook students into reading and what are some ways we can get them engaged in both texts that are at their level and texts that are going to push them, and what books meant a lot to us as, when we were students and now as educators. So I want to do a reading mission this week, and it's going to be kind of the same for students, staff, parents, and volunteers. First of all, for students, I want you to have a conversation sometime this week with somebody. It can be one of your teachers, a classmate, somebody in your family. Tell them your favorite book or story. And don't just say, hey, this is my favorite book. Give them a couple reasons why. Some things you liked about that book. Maybe something cool that happened in the plot. Maybe a character you really identified with. Something interesting that you learned from that book. So students, that's your mission. Excuse me. For parents, for volunteers, for staff members, your mission's all the same. I would like you to try to talk to 5 students this week about your favorite book or story. Now, there's a couple different ways that you could approach this. If you want to talk to students about a book you recently read, and this might be more applicable to high school, but a book that you recently read and really made a difference and really had an impact on you, or you learned something really compelling, that would be a great conversation. Or you could approach it from the what's my favorite book ever, and give them a couple reasons why. Or you could say, oh, you're in 7th grade. When I was in 7th grade, I read this book and I loved it, and here's why. So for our volunteers, for our staff, for our parents, there's a few different ways that you can approach that. And obviously, parents, you're probably just going to have that conversation with your own kiddos, but if you're volunteering, you can stop in and have it with some more in the school. I think it's a great way to foster that love of learning and that love of reading. The more brains we have out there reading, the better brains that we have. And this is just a small way that we can play a part in that. But if we all do it, it's not a small thing, it's a big deal. As always, you can find all the stuff that we are trying to get you to do at MissionMonday.com. You can check us out on our Twitter. That's at @Mission_Monday. You're already watching the YouTube video, so you know how to do that. We got our Tumblr account going. And on our Tumblr account, we have a lot of the same stuff as MissionMonday.com, only it kind of all runs together there. Mark will have a new blog post up on, I'm guessing, Tuesday of this week on our Tumblr account, which you can link to through MissionMonday.com. And we should have a new podcast up around Thursday night as well. And as always, all that stuff aside, thank you so much for doing the missions, because if you just read those off our website and pick those things to do, that is going to have the biggest impact of anything that I talk about, anything that Mark talks about when it comes to positively affecting your classroom, your school, your community, or maybe just your relationship with one student. That'll make a difference. So we'll see you next week for the mission, and good luck with the book one this week.